1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue podcast sound check. Wednesday show live. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue podcast sound check. Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue podcast. It's the Wednesday show. We are live and I am your host, Ian Croll. Joining me in the Royal Blue studio today to talk all things Everton, we've got Connor O'Neill. Connor, how are things?
All good, Ian. All good, especially after Saturday. Another morale boosting 3 points for the Blues, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. But yeah, all good.
And you've come in an hour early for this podcast before your shift starts.
I have, yeah. Just commitment to the Royal Blue cause, can't be questions.
That's it. You just obviously want to speak about an Everton win.
Doesn't happen very often, does it? So, and I've done a fair few ones this year where we've had to chew the fat on some pretty disappointing defeats and performances. So yeah, it'd be nice to talk about something positive for a change.
Hopefully it is a turning point. And we were just actually making arrangements for on the day preview for the Merseyside derby coming up as well. So pre-match Merseyside derby preview. What date is that again?
The 12th, Wednesday the 12th.
12th of Feb, so it's fast approaching. Not far away now. Well, today's agenda, what are we going to speak about? In short, it's obviously going to be dominated by injuries and transfers. We'll also give Connor the final word on Brighton. Maybe a few other tidbits as well if we've got time. But obviously we did the reaction show on Monday with Chris and Joe to Brighton, so you can go back and listen or watch that if you haven't already. We do a bit of a deep dive and talk in depth on that, but I think it's only fitting that Connor gets to speak about another away win at Brighton.
Another away win? Well, you mean a rare away win?
A rare away win, but I can see another one coming at some point in the future. As long as we get a home win on Saturday as well, that's all that matters. As always, give this video a thumbs up, drop us a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Support, as always, is greatly appreciated. We're live on the Royal Blue YouTube channel, so get involved in the stream and drop any comments as and when you can. One final plug, Tony Cottee, his interview with Chris Beasley is going to be out tomorrow. That's going to be live on all of our audio platforms, first thing in the morning, and 10 a.m. for the YouTube video. So that interview is part of the Royal Blues Goodison Park My Home series, where Tony talks about his time at Everton. Really good, insightful interview, plenty of ups and downs in his Everton career, but he does speak very highly and fondly of the club. Let's move on then. Brighton final words. I guess I don't really need to ask you the question. Just talk away of how good that win was.
Huge, wasn't it? It felt absolutely huge. I was in the office on Saturday following the Echo's live blog coverage. Obviously, Joe and Chris were at the Amex, and I think it's safe to say second half, bit edge of the seat stuff for all the wrong reasons, because we were holding on, and obviously we were under a lot of pressure. Obviously, Brighton were dominant. Obviously, going down to 10 men, but 15 minutes to go essentially. Just thinking we just need to hold on now and try and grind this out. And that's exactly what Everton did, and it's huge because it's the bit of spirit, the bit of character that we've long been craving, isn't it? We've been desperate to see them type of performance from Everton. You could argue that we probably did show that type of performance against Arsenal when we drew 0-0 at the middle of December, but we haven't seen enough of them performances in the last 18 months, 2 years. So yeah, it was just huge, and you could tell, couldn't you, by the reaction of full time, just how big it was. And obviously, now to be 7 points clear of the relegation zone going into the Saturday's game against Leicester, that in itself just feels massive. So yeah, it was huge, and I think it was just good to back up the Tottenham victory with a win, because I think obviously too often we've kind of stopped and started, haven't we, as a football club in terms of results, but to get back-to-back wins was huge. And like I say, you could tell by even David Moyes' celebration of full time, you could see how much it meant to him. Obviously, it was a bit of a personal landmark. It was his 700th Premier League game. But yeah, it was huge. And hopefully now that's going to give us the perfect confidence booster moving forward into what is a tough run of games in terms of, you think of Leicester on Saturday, which, obviously they picked up a huge win themselves on Sunday, didn't they? Bournemouth in the Cup, Liverpool, Crystal Palace away, all tough games in their own right. But yeah, I mean, just to see Everton winning is huge, isn't it? We haven't seen enough of this so far this season.
Absolutely. And to be honest, the Amex, we've got a good record there. I think we're unbeaten in 5. And I always say every time we beat Brighton, now I know this didn't happen at the home game because we got battered, but I always say they're a team, the way they set up and play, that should suit Everton and the way they play. And I feel it probably, based on the evidence of results, it probably suits Everton more playing away from home against Brighton. Listen, it was backs to the wall stuff. I don't think anyone's, anyone's saying any different. But if you look at the evidence based on last year when we played Brighton, we were 1-0 up in very similar circumstances and we conceded. This time we didn't. We managed to get over the line. And you're going to get games like that this season where, look at the Tottenham game where we conceded 2. I suggested the psychological frailties of that team are going to be on show. They're going to be evident for a little bit of time. But it's these type of results where it is backs to the wall. It is kind of 1-0 and you just about get over the line. For me, that builds the foundation and, stronger mentality, moving forward.
Yeah, 100% does, doesn't it? I mean, it is all about mentality a little bit in these situations because you've ultimately just got to see games out. You've got to defend. You've got to do the right things at the right moments. And, we saw that. I know people say, Brighton didn't exactly carve out openings, but that was because Everton didn't allow them to carve out openings. A lot of the the chance that they did get on goal were speculative kinds of just shots from range and stuff like that. But that's because Everton put bodies on the line, they put blocks in, they've done the basic really well. I thought Idrissa Gana Gueye was absolutely outstanding. Was head and shoulders the best player on the pitch by a country mile. Jake O'Brien again impressed at right back, stroke right centre back, depends on how you judge where he finished up. Obviously, we kind of went very defensive, didn't we, in the last 10 minutes as we were holding on. But it is about mindset, it is about mentality, and it's also about confidence as well. And you've got to think that, the fact that we hung on against Tottenham, I know that sounds mad because, for people who watched that game for 60 minutes, we should never in a million years have been hanging on. But, I don't care what anyone says, that final minute and a half after Richarlison scored, everyone was fearing the worst, and in many respects was probably thinking the worst is going to happen here because of what we'd seen happen so far this season. The fact that we hung on was a major positive, and you've now just got to hope that that confidence is now spread into Brighton, which meant we not hung on there, but we've seen the game out. Backs to the wall, we grinded out a hard 4-3 points, and this is, I think we're seeing like characteristics now of what we saw in Everton for large parts under David Moyes. Did me that bit of spirit, that bit of fight, people rolling the sleeves up, getting stuck in, and ultimately not crumbling. And obviously, there's still a long way to go, and it's still incredibly early days. But something just felt very different on Saturday, and even the full-time reaction, like I said earlier, I think that spoke volumes because you could just see how much it probably was a bit of a psychological barrier overcome that we had hung on and we had got ourselves over the line.
Definitely. I mean, David Murphy in the comments here is agreeing with you. He says, we were hanging on, but I was confident in our defence, and at no time did I feel we would lose that game. Yeah, I mean, I think kind of touch on what you said there, isn't it, really? Do you see, on the back of the Villa result then, obviously, the defeat there, I think we were kind of cautiously optimistic going into Tottenham on the back of their poor run of form, and things did look a little bit better against Villa. But the fact that we've got to win there, now we've got to win against Brighton, ahead of the Leicester game, do you see these 6 points that we've picked up as kind of bonus points? Because the Leicester game's the game a couple of weeks ago where you think, we've got to pick up the points there. That's got to be a win.
Maybe not bonus points. Maybe the bonus points essentially is the 2 points we picked up at Brighton. Because I think if we're being honest, a lot of people expecting after the Tottenham win would have taken a draw at Brighton and thought that's a good result.
Yeah.
They're a good team. They're doing well. They're in form. The Amex has been a bit of a tough place for the opposition teams to go this season. I think it's only Crystal Palace who've beaten them so far this season at home. So I think people would just accept the points and go, what, that's a good point there on the board. And they look at the teams around us. If they drop points, then it's a step in the right direction. But obviously we've got 6 points, which is huge. But now we can't get carried away. It's interesting. James Tarkowski spoke after the game, and he was quite keen to emphasise that it's been a tough few weeks and it's a rough few months, and there has been tough moments, but they're not going to get carried away with this, and we can't because God forbid, if Leicester come and beat us on Saturday, Goodison, the gap goes from 7 to 4 points. So it swings and roundabouts, doesn't it? So you can't get carried away, but it does feel big to get back-to-back wins, and in the manner in which we did as well, because they were two very, very different performances. Obviously, that Tottenham game, we could and should have been out of sight after an hour, shouldn't we? We probably should be 4 or 5-0 up, if we're being honest. Calvert-Lewin's chance where he spins and puts it wide, and there's a few other moments we then concede to, go about doing it the hard way, but find a way to win. Saturday again, we take kind of like the one chance we got all game, essentially, scored, battle hard, and find a way to get over the line. So two very different performances, two very different ways of winning football matches, but ultimately at the end of it, it's 6 points, and it's 6 points that are huge for Everton right now at this minute.
Definitely, yeah. And just on the Tottenham game, how many times this season have we played a team who've not been in good form themselves? Say, for instance, like a Brentford who don't win away from home. They've got the best home record in the league, but they don't win away from home. They were there for the taking there.
Down to 10 men for the whole second half.
But Spurs obviously were there for the taking with their injury problems and run of form. But we got over the line, we won. Can you imagine not winning that game?
But I think the big thing with the Spurs one, just to finish, was that it was the manner in which we started. We took the game to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was almost like we set up, and David Moyes set the team up to be like, these are on the ropes, lads, and if we swing a few early punches here and catch them, we'll kind of flatten them out. And we did do that because obviously we scored quite early on, scored again. I know by half time we're 3-0 up, and it was felt huge, didn't it? The one I look back at and think is quite similar was where it didn't work out that way was West Ham away, when Lopetegui, there was reports all that week that Lopetegui was going to get sacked, that he was on his way out. There was internal fighting, there was this, there was that. And that first 10 minutes at the London Stadium, I thought West Ham looked like a team that were on the ropes and were one knockout punch away from folding and kind of crumbling. And we didn't lay glove on them. We had one chance, didn't we, early on, where Decore breaks with Guy, and they cocked it up. But we didn't really take the game to them. We didn't get enough front foot. And in the end, we were grateful to Jordan Pickford for saving us, making that save by Danny Ings in the last second. So we didn't, come away with nothing. So I think there shows a bit of the mindset. David Moyes set that team up against Tottenham to get on the front foot, play a little bit further up the pitch, and almost kind of as if to say, if we get at these here lads and we rattle them early, we'll probably have a good chance of winning. And I think that is the big thing, is you've got to seize them opportunities and take the game to the opposition. And we haven't seen that enough from Everton under Sean Dyche this season. But under David Moyes, certainly the Tottenham game, I thought that was exactly what we did do.
No, definitely. And we did certainly rattle Tottenham. Yeah. Moving on to injuries then, obviously Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Orel Mangala. Their injuries did cast a shadow, over what was a really good win at Brighton. I just feel right now I'm still buoyed by everything that's going on, but very much a case of one step forward, 2 steps back, certainly on this, on the injury front, really.
Yeah, I mean, the injury front is not ideal, is it? And I think we were all a little worried before Brighton about the squad and the squad size and the squad depth. And I think after Brighton, we're all a little petrified about the squad size and the squad depth. I
mean, just sorry to interrupt. I've kind of labelled this as striker crisis ? Is it a crisis for you at the moment?
Well, it is, because we only got one fit centre forward, so
I just didn't want to be accused of being overly dramatic. That was all.
No, I mean, not like you, Ian. But no, I think in this instance you are justified, because as things stand right now, as we sit here now recording, Everton have got one fit centre forward, and that's Betto.
Who doesn't play. He's not the main striker.
Who and has also spent large parts of the season having to watch on from the bench. Obviously, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think it's one thing it's safe to say is, obviously, there's reports out there, but, we don't know for definite yet what the full diagnosis is, or, the full, setback is going to be for Mangala and Calvert-Lewin. Obviously, we will probably find out the full story when David Moyes holds his press conference to preview the Leicester game sometime towards the end of this week. But I think, if we're being brutally honest, it doesn't look great for either of them, and it didn't look great on Saturday. I was worried straight away when you see Calvert-Lewin limping off holding, and then obviously Mangala goes off with his knee, and you're thinking, oh, that's not good. And then
carrying on as well. If it's a torn cruciate ligament, which we don't know. We haven't had any confirmation. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, but that's just like instinct, though, isn't it? That's football's mentality sometimes, isn't it? They think they can play on, but I think that when you see them injuries, you think, oh no, like that is
key players though as well.
Yeah,
isn't it?
and that's the thing, isn't it? They are key players, and the key players in areas where they've made a big impact under David Moyes so far. And I certainly the Calvert-Lewin one was just a bit like just when you think he's getting back into form, just when he looks like he's clearly enjoying his new role under David Moyes. He got a goal last week at Tottenham.
Yeah.
He himself will surely want to kick on, and then we just kind of see him limping off, and you're thinking, oh no. And obviously what David Moyes said afterwards...
But you were going to break out into a song then?
What David Moyes said afterwards as well, didn't feel much confidence, did he, where he essentially said himself, they don't look very good, and
fear the worst, hope for the best.
He had a bit of a concerned look, didn't he? So I think we are in the middle of a striker crisis, because like I say, we've got one fit centre forward. Obviously Yusuf Shamity's sidelined still, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is now sidelined, and that just leaves Betto. David Moyes might be creative though. Obviously we've seen this before. We all remember the days when Tim Cahill played up front for Everton during striker crisis. I mean, that would be the ultimate snub to Betto if something like that was to happen. But as things stand, it is a worry that we do only have one fit centre forward at the football club, who, it has to be said, is not exactly look clinical in front of goal this season.
Absolutely, and it must be stressed that there's no confirmation from the club with regards to these injuries. We know that they're either going through full assessments or have been through full assessments, and like you said, we're waiting for an update probably from David Moyes on, more than likely going to be Friday afternoon in his press conference. So it would be wrong really to speculate on the amount of time that they're going to be out, but we'll just have to see. I think
short term, we can safely say that they probably won't be available for selection for this weekend. And,
certainly.
And in the coming weeks, and we will have to find alternative ways to line up with, midfield and forward line. I think the only good thing, well, not good thing, but the only positive around the Mangala stuff is that James Garner has returned, hasn't he? And he seems like a bit of a natural fit to go into that midfield role.
As well.
He's not far away, so David Moyes does have options in the midfield department. He can make tweaks and he can, do things a little differently. But obviously, the centre forward one is the real big one, because, even before this, you think, Armando Broja's season probably looks over a little bit, given how long he's projected to be out. Shimity still remains sidelined. Now Calvert-Lewin's sidelined. But even before Calvert-Lewin was sidelined, there was still plenty of us who thought Everton needed another additional attacking option, another body up top. And that just, Calvert-Lewin's injury just further strengthens them claims, and, why everyone is so desperate to see a centre forward brought in before Monday's deadline.
I mean, the other one that's key is continuing to go on the radar, and now it's turning into somewhat of a long-term injury, is Dwight McNeil as well. He was obviously a player who had a good start to the season, kind of dropped off a little bit, and even almost frustrated a lot of the fans at some quarters. But you'd have to say that he was kind of doing a job for the team in the number 10 role until Decore came back in. So, we don't know what his situation is. We don't know how far away really he's gonna be until he comes back. But again, we'll come on to like what options David Moyes has got. But you'd like to think if he can make a bit of a quick recovery, he could be pushed over to the left, and Ndai could be as the number 10 or second striker. So I think there is options, and we're going to come on.
But even McNeil though, Moyes spoke last week, didn't he? About
it doesn't look good.
He faces the prospect of surgery, doesn't he now? So that
exactly.
You probably won't see him for at least a good few weeks.
Well, we can't get too downhearted on injuries. I think we'll come on to transfers now, and even with Calvert-Lewin injured, I mean, this is Beto's chance now, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
I think he hasn't moaned or anything like that. Certainly not publicly, anyway, about not playing. I'm sure he's been frustrated.
Yeah, and that look, it's one of them, isn't it? With the greatest of respect, if he wasn't frustrated, having not been playing, you'd be questioning his attitude and saying there's something wrong, wouldn't you? If he wasn't, disappointed that he wasn't getting game time, then we'd all be disappointed that that's his attitude. Because you want people to be disappointed when they don't play.
You can see how much it means to him when he plays, and certainly when he scored against Fulham, that goal, like the emotion that poured out of him after that goal in the final whistle. We were all frustrated about the performance and thinking that we should have won. He was probably just delighted that he managed to get the goal and rescue a point for the team. Obviously, his chances are being few and far between because I think majority of Everton fans would still say Calvert-Lewin is the better striker. But this is his chance. He's got to take it now, regardless of how he set up, whether we play to his strengths or not. He's got to do something to prove that he is the main man now.
100%. He's got to show he's a Premier League centre. He can become a Premier League centre forward. And I wrote after Peterborough when obviously he scored and David Moyes wasn't officially manager, but I think we all knew at that point that he was going to become the next Everton manager. And I wrote after that game actually saying that, one of Moyes' first big decisions is decide what to do with Betto. Does he give him a chance? Does he think, actually, you know what, I can get something out of him here? Or does he look at it and think, actually, don't think he's really going to cut it in the Premier League. Let's try and cash in and get him off the books and might enable us to bring someone else in, someone different, a different option, a different type of forward. Now, obviously, the way things have transpired over the last couple of weeks, he's still at the football club. And now, like I said earlier, he is the only now centre forward the football club have got. So he's got to step up and prove himself. There's no other option now. If he struggles in this time now, then he's probably writing's on the wall for him somewhere when it comes to his future. So it is on him now to step up and become the main centre forward. And I think the thing he's got to look a goal threat, because one thing about Calvert-Lewin against Aston Villa was he was a goal threat and he should have scored. He had 3 great chances because he got himself in areas where he had openings. He then scores against Tottenham. Should score a second if we're being honest. Obviously last week his Brighton was cut short, but now Betto is now, as we suspect, if Betto does start on Saturday, he's got to put himself in them same positions to score goals. And if his chances come, he's got to start taking them. And I know that's a big ask because of what we've seen, but this is a different Everton to the one we saw under Sean Dyche. And this isn't the Everton. You'd like to think on Saturday we'll see a kind of repeat performance what we saw against Tottenham, where it'll be on the front foot from the start, try and make a fast start, try and get on top of the opposition. I think Betto's last Premier League start come at Manchester United, didn't it, under Sean Dyche, when, if we're being brutally honest, we just played so deep that we were basically in the Stretford end at one point. Our back four was in the Stretford end, and the midfield 5 was sat on the edge of our box, and Betto stood on the halfway line, chasing lost causes. It's a very different Everton this time round. We're going to play in a very different way, you would hope, and he's got to show that he can be a part of this very different Everton and make an impact in this very different Everton.
I mean, you've kind of just touched upon the point I kind of wanted to make. It's a very different Everton in the sense that we've got a manager now who he's set up completely different. Yeah. So previously under Sean Dyche and the way he would set up, the lone striker would just be completely isolated. And I'm going to be honest with you, people say Betto's got no finesse, he can't hold the ball up. And to be honest, when you look at him from evidence in previous matches, it's hard to disagree. But when you haven't got players around you that you can lay the ball off, little touches there to the left, little touches to the right.
Like I say, the Old Trafford game was a prime example. The game at Old Trafford was a prime example. And, Betto stood on the halfway line. Is 2 wingers essentially playing as 2 full-backs. The back 4 sitting so deep that I guess, it's in the Stretford end at one point. The midfield 5 is camped in our own half on the edge of our own box. And when we do get it, we're just launching up the field and he's chasing after it like, headless. There was no thought there. There was no kind of idea. There was no structure. It was very much just like, let's hold on and see what we can grind out.
Any striker would struggle.
Of course. I mean,
in that game,
under Sean
Dyche, type of situation.
Under Sean Dyche, there's a lot of things, that were good. There was a lot of things that were bad. But one of the things that was bad was that the way he set up just meant being a centre forward was the impossible job, because you were expected to hold the ball up, chase the channels, and try and score and create goals. You're asking a lot there for a Premier League centre forward who's going to be playing for Everton to do that.
I think one of the things he's got to start doing, because I think what we found, and whether you agree or not, the one thing that Dominic Calvert-Lewin's been really good at in the past 2 games, you're not necessarily having to hold the ball up. He's probably winning more headers and flick-ons for the midfielders to run onto. I think if we're going to carry on like that, obviously that's where Betto's got to kind of improve slightly. Yeah. He's still going to have to hold the ball up. I don't think there's going to be a situation in the game where that doesn't happen. It obviously is. But I think mainly Calvert-Lewin, obviously, we know he's patchy, and when he gets a goal, he might score another one. That has put it to a halt. Betto's got to go on a bit of a run now for us, because he's the main lone striker, and he's got to stay fit effectively as well. Can you imagine if he goes out injured? That's a crisis in itself. I mean, transfer wise, we'll come on to who would play alongside Betto or who would play just behind Betto, but I think
we'll see pretty much what we saw. And without dampering, looking ahead to Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be just a replacement, isn't it?
It's going to be James Garner, you suspect, for Mangala, and Betto for Calvert-Lewin, because you can't, I can't see David Moyes making wholesale changes for what he's seen, because I think he's been impressed by what he's seen so far. So you would expect it to be more of the same. And, if we're being honest, none of the back four deserve to come out, do they? They've all been superb in recent weeks. Jake O'Brien especially, he's done really, really well. Idrissa Gueye, like I say, was man of the match. Lindstrom's come on leaps and bounds under Moyes in a short space of time, and Dyer's obviously a crucial part of everything that's been good in recent weeks. So I think from a team selection point of view, it'll be more of the same, but maybe Garner coming in for Mangala and Betto replacing Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, I agree. I also think they probably wouldn't want to rush Garner back too much and do too much too soon. He's obviously been
He's got no choice though, has he?
Well, he has. I think he has. There's a player who's been injured for the majority of the season there, and yeah, if he's ready and fit and he can play, them fine. But I wouldn't expect him to play like a full 90 minutes.
No, you do wonder maybe, does he put Garner in for 60, 70 minutes on Saturday and then put Tim and Boomer on for the last 20 minutes maybe?
Another player with an injury though, you don't want to rush back.
Something like that.
Transfers, I guess, is probably to move on to.
The hot topic at the minute.
Well, it is, isn't it? Let's face it, it is January and it is the season. I think we're all expecting...
There's a little Christmas reference there,
Yeah. We're all expecting something, but I'm going to be honest, my expectations are low, and I think that's probably where every Everton fan needs to be right now. And it's not because the club aren't doing enough. It's not because the Freakins have got no money. It's not because... For me, it's not because Thelwell's not doing his job, or it's not because Moyes is not doing his job. It's obviously we are still restricted by PSR and everything that goes with that. We're in a position where, we might have to sell before we can buy. You don't really want to bring in a quick fix that costs millions of pounds, and then within 12 months you're calling them dead wood and you're having to offload them on big wages. January is just a terrible market to buy in anyway, because players are desperate to leave if they're not getting into the team, but there's a reason why they're not getting into a team. It's either because they're not good enough, or they're injured themselves, they're injury prone. There's all this that like a combination of everything. But the one thing is, again, it's just we are restricted by PSR and these rules, which, the other week we were just delighted that we weren't getting a charge against us, and now we're still having to deal with stuff like that. It's frustrating.
I think the big thing from all this, because I understand frustration and a little bit of now panic and nerves, because we are only days away from the window closing, and I think it's quite clear. David Moyes has been quite clear, hasn't he, that he would like some reinforcements. He would like a couple of players to bolster the squad between now and into the season. But look around the Premier League. How many clubs are doing deals? How many clubs are bringing players in? How many clubs are getting players out? Not very many at all. I know Man City have brought players in, but people forget that they have lived a very PSR luxury life in recent years, in that they've not spent much money, but they've recouped a hell of a lot of money. You think in the summer they sold Julian Alvarez to Atletico Madrid for 70 million quid. Obviously, they sold Cole Palmer 18 months ago for 45 million to Chelsea, which is pure profit because he was an academy graduate. They've sold a few other academy graduates, so they're a very different standpoint to essentially the rest of the Premier League. But what I do think is, if you look around, like I say, there is a lack of activity going on, and there's a reason why there's a lack of activity going on, and it's because of PSR. Because I'm sure, for all being, Newcastle would love to have one or two players in their squad to give them a final push for the Champions League. Arsenal would love to bring in a centre forward to try and push Liverpool between now and the end of the season. I'm sure Ruben Amorim would love to bring in 3 or 4 players at Manchester United to completely rip up what he's inherited and start again. But the reality is they can't. They can't do that because PSR restrictions, and Everton are battling and involved in the same PSR restrictions as everyone else. So it's frustrating, it's making people get nervous. It's making people a little bit agitated. But that's just the way the world is, and you've just got to hope that somehow between now and Monday at 11 o'clock that Everton can pull a couple of rabbits out the hat and, bring 1 or 2 in. But I think it's going to be difficult. And like you say as well, January's always been, before PSR, January was always a tough month, wasn't it? Because if you went out and brought in a
quick fix,
a player, you were having to pay a lot more than what you probably would have done if you'd have bought him in the summer. And then, like you say, a lot of the players often who were available in January have either been injured or haven't played for their club. So there's a reason behind that, and they come in and they're not exactly up to speed. So, yeah, I think I understand people's nervousness, and I haven't maybe panicking a little bit because we haven't brought the players in, and like we've just spoke about at length there, we do have somewhat of a striker crisis now, given we only have one fit centre forward at the football club. But like I say, look around the Premier League. This isn't an Everton thing. It's a Premier League thing, and PSR is basically, if we're being honest, PSR has killed the January transfer window, hasn't it? It's made it almost irrelevant, because unless you do a Manchester City and don't buy anyone for 18 months, you're just restricted in what you can do and what you can buy and what you can't buy.
Yeah, we've got a couple of comments from the County Road Bobblers account. So it says, we don't have to sell to buy. We have room with PSR to buy and upfront cash. Moyes is just making sure we don't buy. I can't say the word that he's said because it's a swear word. But just to clarify, I didn't say that we need to sell to buy. I'm saying it's obviously an option if need be. We're very close to.
You've also got to buy, and I think this the thing, isn't it? We've also got to buy players who are going to come in and be able to hit the ground running and be Premier League proven.
Well, you're not going to get that, though,
I don't think this is the time to be buying emerging European talents, because the position we find ourselves in and the squad that we've got and the lack of depth that it's got at the minute, we need players who can come in and hit the ground running and, get off to a strong start and have a bit of Premier League know-how.
Yeah, just on top of that last comment from the County Road Bobblers YouTube account, says, I wouldn't say crisis. We've lost a striker who scored 1 in 18 games. Everything has changed since Dice has left. Betto was more than capable of adding 5 goals in 18 games. I think we've kind of said that, to be honest, though, haven't we? I think the problem with the Calvert-Lewin situation is he's not wrong in we've scored 1 goal. He scored 1 goal in 18 games, but the evidence is there to say that once he scored, he'll go on a bit of a run, and that's kind of stopped him in his tracks.
I think it's about the problem is that you lose that ability to change it up, don't you? Because one of the things with having 2 forwards is that you can bring on 8 forwards if the other forwards is having a tough afternoon or it's not going their way, or if you want to roll the dice and put 2 of them up front together for the 10, 15, 20 minutes, you can do. If you've only got 1 forward, you can't do that. You're restricted in what you can and can't do. So yeah, that's what I mean in terms of the crisis. It doesn't give David Moyes the option that he probably wants and needs right now this minute to be able to freshen things up during matches.
I think the thing that allays my fears slightly, don't get me wrong, Calvert-Lewin being out injured for what we probably think is going to be a couple of months. That him kicking on and scoring a couple of goals obviously is kind of what we wanted. But now that he's not there, the need for it probably to bring in another attacking player, whether that's like a winger or a forward, is obviously clearly there. I'm not suggesting it's not. But what allays my fears is what you touched on there about what our rivals are doing. I know Ipswich have bought Jaden Philly-Jean, but not everyone else around us is like spending millions. If that was the case, I'd be a little bit worried then. I think that I'd be like, well, these are spending the way out. Philly-Jean could be an absolute, star for Ipswich, but right now the evidence suggests that he's still trying to find his feet in his career.
He's a work in progress, isn't he?
Well, yeah, and Villa were happy to just offload him straight away because of PSR. And
you look at Wolves, obviously they're another rival of Everton. It looks like their big transfer issue is going to be trying to keep hold of Cunha as one of the better players, because obviously there's a lot of links around him and Arsenal, Manchester United, him maybe wanting to leave, him not wanting to leave. So, yeah, I think, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, doesn't it? You look around the Premier League, there's not a lot going on. There's not a lot going on for a reason.
Good comment here. So, Mr. Blue Skies has said, I'd rather Moyes bought 2 top quality players than 5 average players. We're in this mess because of our average at best recruitment over the last 7 to 8 years. I mean, I think it's a good point. I think that's probably more geared to like the summer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than now.
And we've spoke at length, haven't we? On this show and on other Road Blue podcast shows. The summer is going to be very interesting, and summer's going to be
need to survive first.
Wholesale changes. We just need to get ourselves into that position in the summer as a Premier League football club, and then we can take things from there. Because we always have a lot. We always think about everything. You always have plenty to chew the fat over. But when it comes to transfers and squads and deals, I suspect we're going to have a hell of a lot to chew the fat over in the summer with what the position the club find themselves in.
I mean, we'll move on, but I guess the other options that we've got, rather than transfers, PSR or quick fixes, we've got the loan options, which, again, we haven't really had confirmation on any of this. But the Breuer, situation and negotiations with Chelsea, I think, seems to be ongoing as well. But we've also got the situation now where Mangala's a loan player, negotiations probably going to go on with Leon. In a way, it's a positive and a negative that these injuries to the players that we've got, they're only loan players. So if the impact of their fitness and injuries is long term, we can just wash our hands with them. But now, obviously, we need the quick fix, basically. So where do we go with loans? Well, again, like you say, we've had no confirmation on what we can do.
We don't know, do we? Because obviously there's the message on Friday, I think, from Moyes' press conference was that talks are still ongoing with Chelsea. Obviously, there was a suggestion that we might take another Chelsea player on loan. Obviously, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall is one name that's been mentioned, isn't it? And I think a lot of supporters wouldn't be too against seeing him move to Goodison Park before Monday. Things are just ongoing, I suspect, and you now maybe wonder if Everton have had to start having the same conversations they've been having with Chelsea about Armando Broja, with Leon about Mangala. So I think that'll just be a case of wait and see what comes, and we'll probably have a bit of a clearer picture, I think, by the time Moyes addresses the media ahead of Leicester later this week.
Are you surprised or slightly disappointed that there's been no get out clause in these loans from our point of view? But then that just comes down to negotiations when you're trying to get the player, I guess, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you can't forsake. I mean,
with Breuer, you could have.
People might have said, Breuer was it maybe, but you can't forsake, can you, what's going to happen? You don't know what's going to happen. It's just, in many respects, it's just Everton's luck, isn't it?
The Breuer deal was, by all accounts, a really good deal on the face of it. We didn't pay him until he first came into the squad. He got himself fit, played a couple of games, looked really promising, and then just got injured straight away. Yeah, and it's obviously a long-term injury as well.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate, isn't it? But you just got to maybe now see what happens in terms of the negotiations and the talks, and hopefully, things change and we see it, we do manage to do some sort of deals which hopefully enable us to add to the squad before Monday.
I mean, gut feeling then, think we will. And is it going to be a busy deadline day, last minute type of thing?
Gut feeling.
Are you working it?
Yeah.
What times are you working?
I'm in all day, I think I am anyway. I think there'll be plenty going on deadline day. There'll be a lot of talk. Whether that talk materialises into anything firm, I don't know. I do think between now and Monday, this is just my opinion. I don't have any insight, any knowledge. I think Everton will get at least one forward in.
One forward.
Yeah.
If we don't, and on the basis of everything with Moyes coming in and everything, do you think we've got enough to stay up?
Yeah.
Even with Calvert-Lewin and Mangala?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Provided we don't get any more major injuries.
Yeah.
Don't know what's provided we don't get any more major injuries. But yeah, I think we've all seen from the last two games that we should have enough of a solid base to be able to pick up points between now and the end of the season. And I think we should all, we're all obviously the jury's still out on Betto, isn't it? And obviously we spoke, we've touched on why, in this show, but I think we all believe that Timur Burma and James Garner shouldn't be more than capable to come in and play midfield alongside Idrissa Gana-Gueye in Mangala's absence between now and the end of the season. So, yeah, I think we'll just have to wait and see in terms of the Betto situation, but I do think Everton should have enough to stay up, yeah.
Just some comments on the Breuer loan deal. So Nash says, to not have a Breuer clause was one of the worst Thelwell transfers for me. Going to end up costing us wages for just 2 games. Wormy Spoons says, no, the Breuer deal was bad because he had injury issues for 2 years and was injured when we panic signed him. It was a daft gamble.
I mean, again, it's hindsight, isn't it? Because he got injured and people, can say it was this, that, and the other. But we could be sitting in a different world now where Bro's just got himself fit, come back in and gets 2 goals in 3 games or whatnot. So, look, it was a gamble. The gamble hasn't quite worked out, but, like every gamble, it could have worked out the opposite way, and we could have got a player who come in and really hit the ground running. It was exactly what we've been craving.
One thing is for certain, I guess, there's on Saturday, whatever way you look at it, we're going to see a slightly different lineup. Well, say slightly, it's going to be a different lineup to what we've been used to. So, bearing that in mind, then, how would you change it, and how would you go?
I think it'll be pretty much what we saw on Saturday, with James Garner coming in for Mangala and Betto replacing Calvert-Lewin.
Just and 3 behind them, and on the left, the Corey, and Lindstrom on the right. And
it'll be the same kind of setup formation. I can't see him changing that much, because I think the fundamentals of what the back 4 and the midfield 3 and stuff have done in recent weeks has been so big that you'd be mad to change it, wouldn't you? You'd be mad to rip that up and start trying to enforce a new formation and stuff, because it's worked the last 2 weeks. So I think it should be a case of more of the same, and getting Enzai on the ball and getting Lindstrom on the ball and trying to make things happen, and making sure the back 4 stays compact and as strong as what they have done.
In many ways, what you've just said there with the defence, that's kind of been his biggest success, I think, since he's come in. Certainly bringing O'Brien in, and you would never have envisaged Jake O'Brien to be playing as a right back at any point.
No. But he's done really well, hasn't he? And certainly doesn't deserve to be out the team on Saturday, does he, when it comes to, selection? So, I just think the whole setup and the way we played the last 2 weeks, I don't think we'll see David Moyes tampering with that anytime soon, because I think it's just worked too well. And I think the fact that he's got as well the ability to just put like changes in there, so he doesn't have to make wholesale changes. Garner can just go and play alongside just a guy. Betto can replace Calvert-Lewin, I think, is huge as well. And obviously, don't forget, our best run last season, or certainly best run in the calendar year of 2024, was when Idrissa Gana Gueye lined up alongside James Garner, wasn't it, midfield? Obviously, Amadou Onana was on the bench. You think of them 3 wins in 6 days, which, preserved our Premier League status for this season. James Garner and Idrissa Gana Gueye were instrumental in them, weren't they? So, no reason why they've shown before that they can do it. No reason why they can't do it again. Yeah,
and I'm going to make a bold statement, whether you agree or not. I think we're going to certainly need to be patient with James Garner on his return. We love him to go in and hit the ground running and have like a worldie, but I think we're actually getting a better player back in the team compared to Mangala. I like Mangala. I think everything that he's done this season he's been one of Everton's better players. But in terms of a player on the ball, a bit more comfortable, certainly passing wise.
I do 100% agree with that. I think
so. It's a plus in a way, trying to find the positive.
Garner's got probably the best footballing ability out of Everton's midfielders by a mile.
So you agree?
He's got the ability to retain possession, hasn't he? And I think that's, for as good as Idrissa Gana Gueye, Mangala, Decore and Cole being, their big point, one of the big negatives around them is they're not very good at retaining the ball.
Exactly.
Whereas James Garner is. So I do agree with that. And I think that will help as well moving forward if we can start keeping the ball a little bit better. And I think David Moyes as well has alluded to it, hasn't he? He wants to keep the ball more. He wants to put more passage of play and phases of play together. He doesn't just want to look the ball forward. So that should help him with that as well.
We'll finish off now then before we do predictions, but one last question. Dave Mack says, Ian, this is why Saturday is a must win. Lose and incomings are a must. Win, and then we will probably need only 6 more points to stay up. I posed this question actually on Monday. How many points do you think we need now to stay up?
I don't think we should be even... I think we should keep trying to win as many games as we can.
Don't be boring. Joe Thomas was willing to give an answer. Do you know what he said?
Go on.
He clearly didn't watch the podcast or listen to it on Monday, did you?
I was on late to Monday, so,
I'll let you off. 12, he said, with like...
I would say
draws.
I would say from here on in, 4 wins.
Yeah, so he said 12 points with like a couple of draws, so like 2 or 3 draws, I think.
I'd say from here on in, 4 wins. Then that's obviously going into Saturday, so if you win Saturday, 3 wins.
Predictions then? You looking positive?
I'm going to go 2-1 Everton.
2-1. I'm going to give my prediction now because we have got a show Friday, but I'm just unsure whether I'm going to be on it just because we're not entirely sure what we're doing with the press conference and the time that we broadcast. So I'm going to go, off the top of my head, I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to go a couple of goals. We got 3 against Spurs.
Yeah.
3 against Leicester as well, I think. So, yeah. And Jamie Vardy's probably going to score, isn't he?
Well, he always scores a good, doesn't he?
Exactly. So there's the token.
And to be fair, a bit of nostalgia. I remember, you probably would have been there yourself, Vardy scoring the winner in one of the worst games of football I've ever watched on New Year's Day a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to not remember those type of games because they just stay ingrained in your brain.
It was so bad. It was a New Year's Day early kick-off that no one cared about.
Was it a mistake? Didn't we have a mistake from
Yeah.
Keane, I assume? I think it was Keane, wasn't it?
It was Keane or John Joe Kenny or someone. And Vardy nipped in, didn't even score, but it was one of the worst games of football I think I've ever watched.
We're getting a lot of comments about predictions as well. So 3-0, 3-1, 4 wins at home. All these permutations for the next couple of weeks. Any final thoughts from you?
No, I think that's everything, isn't it? I think it's stay tuned. Follow the Echo for all the latest because I think it's going to be a big couple of days. Obviously, we'll have coverage of David Moyes' press conference later on this week when obviously we will get the definitive updates on Mangala and Calvert-Lewin. And then, of course, we will, have live coverage from Goodison on Saturdays, Everton entertain Leicester. And then, one of the days of the year that every football fan seems to strangely love, transfer deadline day on Monday, we'll have wall-to-wall coverage of everything that's going on. And like I say, I think that could be a day in which there's a lot of talk, a lot of names thrown about, but there might not be as much firm up action as the speculation might suggest.
Okay, well, just final thoughts from me. We are going to be back Friday, as mentioned, lineup to be confirmed and time to be confirmed, but more than likely it's going to be a morning show. And keep an eye out for the Tony Cottee interview tomorrow, as mentioned earlier in the podcast. His interview with Chris Beasley as part of the Goodison Park My Home series is out first thing tomorrow on audio platforms, and it will be broadcast as a YouTube video at 10 a.m.
I mean, just on that, I wasn't fortunate enough, obviously, to listen to what Chris said, but I was in the office the day Tony Cottee come in, and if he tells half the stories he told myself, you and Chris off the record before he come into the studio, that'll be a fascinating listen. Well, it was, and it is. So keep an eye out for that one. Just think, very up and down Everton career, but certainly, like you said, fond memories. And he's a West Ham fan, he's a West Ham boy, but you'd probably say if he had a second club, it would be Everton. All right, well, that is all for today's show. Please remember to hit the like button on this live video and subscribe to the channel. Drop us some reviews on Apple and Spotify as well. Most importantly, enjoy the rest of your day. Oh, one more thing I forgot. Season ticket, third window is open. It is today.
Yeah. When can you get yours?
Not for a few more weeks, yeah.
Not for a few more weeks. Matt Jones opens, because he can get his, but he's waiting for his dad, and I can get mine, but I'm waiting for a mate. He opened the portal today and was like, this is what's available. And I was like, I don't want to see what's available because I can't really get mine till next week now. So good luck to anyone trying to get their tickets today. I don't know if the website crashed. Matt said something like that before. So I think today and in the next window, these might be like the busiest times where people are trying to get the season tickets.
Yeah.
So good luck. Okay,
all
sorry.
very exciting, isn't it?
A sidetrack there for a little bit. So yeah, I've been Ian Croll, joined by Connor O'Neill, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.